In this lecture, we will talk about root caries. In the lecture about classification of dental caries, we say that one of the classification is based on the location of caries, and we subdivided that into coronal caries, which affects the coronal portion of the tooth, and root caries, which affects the root surface of the tooth or the root portion of the tooth. And because this type of caries has special characteristics, we will talk about it in a separate lecture, which is today's lecture. Root caries can be defined as a soft irregular shaped lesion, either totally confined to the root surface, which means the lesion is only onto the root portion of the tooth, so this is clear that it is root caries, or it could involve the root surface and extend to involve the cemento-enamel junction, undermining the cemento-enamel junction, which is the demarcation between the root and the crown, but clinically indicating that the lesion initiated into the root surface. How can we know clinically that the caries is initiated into the root surface? Can be explained by the next point, that root caries can be initiated only if the root surface is exposed to the oral environment, which means that the root surface should be exposed in order for the caries to develop. If there is a healthy gingiva, healthy periodontal ligament, there will be no root caries. If the gingiva and the periodontal ligament is healthy and at the acceptable clinical level, there will be no root caries. If the root is exposed to the oral environment, this means caries can develop. So this is how we can differentiate if the caries involve the root and the crown, whether the lesion is initiated into the root portion or into the crown portion. If there is exposure to the of the root to the oral cavity, this means that the lesion is initiated into the root portion of. This is a clinical picture of the root caries, the position or the location of the root caries. The arrow pointed to the cemento-enamel junction. As we all know, cemento-enamel junction is the demarcation between the crown portion and the root portion of the tooth, and we can see the dark lesion here on the nasal surface of the tooth is called root caries, because there is gingival recession here. Gingival recession, which means the gingiva receded and exposed part of the root to the oral cavity, and therefore the lesion developed on the root portion of the tooth. Appearance of the lesion. The newly formed lesion appear as a small, well-defined area of a yellowish to light brown color. As caries progress, the surface of the lesion has a leathery consistency, which means easily can be removed. This means by what we mean by leathery, that can be easily peeled away, easily can be removed. And later, an advanced lesion will appear darker brown to black and may be hard if it becomes arrested. Which means the caries process is seized due to any reason, and it will become hard and will stain dark in color. The location of the lesion, as we said, it should be on the root surface, hence the name root caries. Initial lesions usually are common on facial and proximal surfaces, less common on the lingual or palatal surfaces. Then, if the lesion becomes larger, it may extend to include the different surfaces of the root. In the mandible, molars appear to be most susceptible to root caries, followed by premolars, canines, and incisors. While in maxilla the order is reversed, which means that most susceptible to root caries the anterior followed by the canines, anterior incisors, followed by the canines, followed by the premolars, and then the molars. And this can be explained through the position of the salivary glands, or the position of the openings of the salivary glands. As we all know, we have the submandibular salivary glands, where the orifices or openings of the submandibular salivary glands usually into the incisors, lingual to the lower incisors, in the mandible. So the least susceptible to caries in the mandible are the incisors, while in the maxilla, the orifices of the parotid salivary glands is toward the molars. So the least susceptible to caries in the maxilla are the molars. And we talked previously about the effect of caries of saliva, and how it is a defensive mechanism against caries, and we will talk about the role of saliva and dental caries in the next lecture. Caries activity in root surface. As any other carious lesion, the caries activity in root surface can be subdivided into active or arrested. We said this applies for any caries. We talked about this classification when we talked about classification of root caries in a previous lecture. But in root surface, the caries or the lesion is considered active if it is close to the gingiva and plaque covered, which means we have the oral hygiene is poor, there is a lot of the plaque, a lot of bacteria, and the consequences, of course, you know it about presence of plaque and bacteria, and effect of decreasing the plaque pH and result in demineralization. And usually it is soft or leathery. We said leathery, it can be easily peeled away. And the other side, it may be arrested. Arrested usually associated if the lesion is distant from the gingiva, which means not plaque covered, which means there is, although we have gingival recession, the presence of no plaque means that there is good oral hygiene. Maybe the patient was in a certain situation that changed his oral habits, and plaque is controlled, there is no plaque accumulation, and usually arrested caries will be hard, healthy root surface. Some of you may ask, so how we say that this is root caries? How we tell that this is root caries? From the color. Usually the arrested carious lesion will be black, black in color. This means that there was a previous lesion, and as I said, something happened and changed the situation. For example, oral hygiene, or exposure to fluoride, or dietary changes, or any other reason that caused the active caries to get arrested, and this will result in arrested caries, and the carious lesion will be hard and healthy, and not hard for removal, that cannot be easily removed. The caries process on root surface is very similar to that in coronal caries. It's very similar to any carious lesion. Root surface, however, there are some differences. For example, root surface is more susceptible to chemical dissolution than enamel surface, because we know that the root is covered by cementum and the crown is covered by enamel. Enamel is more resistant for demineralization. Root surface is covered by cementum, but usually cementum is very thin layer, and after exposure of the root, this layer will be removed by brushing, by friction, and leaving the dentin. And the dentin is less mineralized, as we all know, than enamel. And the drop in pH necessary for demineralization in cementum and dentin is higher than for enamel, which means that if the pH drops for very minimum, this will cause demineralization and denting. For example, it's just 6.2 to 6.7 that the drop in pH is necessary for demineralization of dentin, while demineralization of enamel, if you remember, needs more drop in the pH. We said the critical level is 5 to 5.5. For a pH in, there should be a drop in a pH of the plaque in order for the caries in enamel to develop, while it is higher in dentin, so which means that the drop in pH necessary for demineralization in cementum and dentin is less than that the drop which is needed for enamel demineralization. This makes development of caries in dentin is much easier and faster than that in enamel, and this is one very special characteristic for caries development on root surface. Given the proper environment, both the initiation and progression of root surface caries will occur more rapidly in dentin than in enamel surface, as I said. Microbiology of root caries. Early studies pointed to actinomyces viscus as a prime suspect for initiation of root caries, while recent studies emphasize the role of Streptococcus mutans and Lactobacilli in the development of root caries. However, it is likely that root caries is a continuous destructive process involving a succession of bacterial populations that vary depending on the condition of the substrate and the depth of the lesion. Prevalence of root caries, which means the percentage of root caries among the population. Usually, population at risk of root caries is the older adults. However, older adults, because this type or this group of population usually have more periodontal problems, have more gingival recession, and we say that the root surface should be exposed in order for root caries to develop. However, younger patients also with periodontal problems are susceptible to caries as well. International surveys have estimated that the disease affects about, it is a wide range, 60 to 90% of adults. Incidence means the occurrence in the individual, the percentage of occurrence in the individual. It has been suggested that 1 in 9 root surfaces is at risk of becoming carious, and studies on caries incidence reported that root caries and consequently restoration of the root restoration, of course restoration, the teeth that has been restored because root that have been restored because of root caries experience ranging from 19% to 69%, which again is a wide range. Risk factors and assessment. What do we mean by risk factors? Risk factors, those factors that make an individual at a higher risk of developing root caries. While it's important, because if we define those people those that are at high risk of developing root caries, then we can manage those factors, or we can control those factors in order to decrease the incidence of or occurrence of root caries in those individuals. So it is of critical importance to identify persons at risk early in the root caries process. So early detection permits preventive of this lesion to progress and cause more destroying on the root surface or on the tooth, and chemotherapeutic intervention, which means prescribing mouth rinses for this patient in order to decrease the amount of bacteria and decrease the incidence of root caries formation. Root caries is generally more prevalent among males than females. So being a male is considered a risk factor. Of course, the main risk factor for root caries is the exposure of root surface, because caries does not develop if the root surface is not exposed. there should be an exposed root surface for development of the carious lesion, as we said. So, who are those patients at risk of exposure of root surfaces? Patients with attachment loss, we use periodontal attachment loss, periodontal ligament attachment loss, gingival recession, of course, gingival recession, it means recession of the gingiva or receding of the gingiva away from the root surface, exposing root surface to the oral environment. Periodontal pocket formation, sometimes the gingiva is not receded, but there is a space between the tooth and the root. We call this periodontal pocket, and this allows the plaque to go in there and the bacteria and will cause carious lesions. Inadequate oral hygiene, inadequate flossing or tooth picking that cause in the loss of the attached gingiva and gingival recession. Of course, a cariogenic diet is very important risk factor if the patient consume high levels of carbohydrates that will result in decrease of the plaque pH. In this slide, we will continue with the risk factors associated with root caries. One of the risk factors is dimension, salivary flow, and or buffering capacity. We'll talk about the saliva and its role in dental caries in the next lecture. But saliva has very important factor in decreasing or working against formation of the caries in general by its washing effect or buffering effect. So any problem occur with the amount or the quantity or the quality of saliva can affect the carious process. The dimension, salivary flow or buffering capacity can be as a result of radiation therapy. Radiation therapy to the head and neck as a result of cancer, for example, can affect the function of the salivary glands and therefore affect and can cause diminishing in the salivary flow or buffering capacity of the saliva. Again, immunosuppressive therapy also can affect the function of the salivary glands, autoimmune diseases, HIV infection, and some of medications can also common prescribed medications, some antihypertensive drugs, some antiemetic drugs, and a list of other drugs can also interfere with we will talk about them also in the next lecture, can interfere with the function of the saliva. Another factor is the previous caries or restorations. Individuals who have chronic caries are 2 to 3.5 times more likely to develop root caries. Of course, if the person already has crown caries, he will be at a risk of developing root caries in case of root exposure. Lack of access or interest in dental service as any other carious lesion also, and this will increase the problem in case of root caries. This factor is the presence of removable prostheses. Removable prostheses, it means replacement of the teeth with removable dentures that can be removed by the patient and for cleaning, for example, and retained inside the oral cavity. Usually these are for elderly patients also, and these prostheses can cause retention of food debris, which increase the problem, of course, and sometimes part of these prostheses can cause gingival recession. Advanced age, as we said, that usually root caries affect the elderly because this group of people has more periodontal problems. The effect of all these factors may be magnified with age related to health problems and treatments, as we said, that might affect the saliva. Presence of 8 or more missing teeth can be considered as a risk factor for developing root caries. Gender, we said previously that root caries is generally more prevalent among males than females. Of course, we have other factors which are related to any other disease like smoking, alcoholism, for example. Diagnosis of root caries. Although this may be an early for you at this stage, but to complete talking about root caries, we have to mention something about diagnosis of root caries. The first very important step in diagnosis of root caries is the early identification of contributing factors or of risk factors that we already talked about, and oral hygiene factors. Dental prophylaxis should be done prior to examination. Dental prophylaxis, which means professional cleaning of the teeth to remove the debris, to remove the plaque that may limit the visibility of the root surface. And the first step of diagnosis, the plaque and debris should be removed in order to identify the carious lesions on the root surface. Prevention is very important in root caries. As we said previously, the first step in prevention is determining the risk factor or factors that are associated with root caries. Prevention or arresting root caries can depend on three main strategies: plaque removal, diet modification, and topical fluoride application. Topical, which means application of the fluoride on the root surfaces that are exposed in order to prevent root caries. Plaque control has been shown to play a very important role in arresting root caries. Plaque thickness and acetogenic response to sucrose exposure are significantly reduced when lesion became inactive, and chlorhexidine is a mouth rinse that is used to decrease the number of cariogenic bacteria, has been associated with the prevention of root caries and arresting of active carious lesions. And the third strategy in prevention of root caries or arresting root caries is the topical fluoride. Fluoride is accepted as an appropriate chemotherapeutic agent in the management of root caries. Prevention or arrest of root caries has been demonstrated using fluoridated water, fluoride gels, fluoride mouth rinses, fluoride dentifrices, varnishes. Varnishes, it is very thin layers of fluoride that is applied clinically by the dentist in the dental office. Fluoride chewing gum and fluoride releasing devices all has been proven to decrease the chance of root caries, and also if there is active carious lesions, help in arresting those lesions.